I'm honored to be the introducer. My name is Gary Gilkison. I'm a rheumatologist at MUSC and have worked extensively with Dr. James C. Oates, who is the recipient of the award. So, just to go over, for those of you who aren't familiar, the Founders Medal is the highest award given by the SSCI. There are a number of you in the audience who have also received the award. It was first given out in 1973 and the purpose of it is to honor members who have played an important role in the organization through leadership in the SSCI and are also nationally recognized leaders in medicine. It was established to honor Dr. Tinsley Harrison, who was the kind of the founder and first president of the SSCI in 1946. And he also received this award in 1974, and that's him in the biggest picture on the upper right. There have been a number of notable recipients of this award, in addition to those that are here in the audience, and some of these are shown here. On the upper right is Dr. John Oates, and we're pleased to announce that Jim is the first multi-generational recipient of the Founders Medal, as Jim's dad, John, received the award. I'm not sure what year, but unfortunately he passed away earlier this year, leading me to be the introducer of the award rather than his father. Other people on there, some of them have caused me significant PTSD, include Dr. Selden, Donald Selden on the right below him, who also caused Jim PTSD, is Eugene Stead, Dr. Weingarten, Dr. Kang, and Dr. Bennett, among many other esteemed colleagues and giants in medicine. So it's a highly prestigious award to be named in the same sentence as these other giants. So there are some disclosures I have to give. As I stated before, I'm an undeserving but very honored fill-in to present this award after the recent passing of the natural choice, Jim's dad, Dr. John Oates. Jim and I are actually celebrating our 25th anniversary of working together. He and I have been together longer than he and his wife, but not that much longer. And as you can tell, neither one of us are very good at taking selfies. So I will go into the multiple honors and attributes of Jim. There's some less known well attributes to many of you. He is very big on being punctual and not being late, to the point that he is known to have flown to the AFMR meeting in Chicago 1 month prior to the actual meeting, not wanting to be late at all. It was interesting to see him when he came back the next day. He is also known by the MUSC University Police for leaving his locked car running in the garage for hours. To offset this, he has recently gotten a Tesla so that that doesn't happen much anymore. And he is frequently often mistaken for Inspector Gadget, as you can see by the resemblances there. So Jim's has a very prestigious and educational background. He graduated from Bates College in 1986, where he was selected to Phi Beta Kappa. He was then selected to be part of the Four Schools Physician Scientist Training Program, and he chose to attend Johns Hopkins University, where he received his MD in 1991. He then proceeded, as part of this program, to go to Duke University for his internship and residency, finishing in 1994, and then began his rheumatology fellowship at Duke in 1995, which is where, or 94, which is where he and I first crossed paths. He completed 2 years of his rheumatology fellowship at Duke, and then he moved to MUSC in 1996 when he and I made that journey together. And he completed his fellowship in 1997 and received the ACR Senior Rheumatology Scholar Award in 1997, which is given to the top fellows by the ACR for that year. He has had a rapid rise in his career path, starting as an instructor of medicine in 1997, going up to be an assistant in 1998, an associate in 2006. I convinced him to take over being chief of rheumatology from me at the Ralph H. Johnson VA in 2007. He became a tenured associate professor in 12, a professor in 2017, and his other accolades jobs have included being informatics medical director for research, Department of Medicine vice chair for research, and then just last year being named director of our MUSC division of rheumatology. His research contribution, he has over 75 peer-reviewed publications, 8 book chapters, and these are in the leading journals of rheumatology, nephrology, and immunology. His major research areas have been in reactive intermediates and autoimmunity, focusing primarily on nitric oxide and its synthases and their role in disease pathogenesis, and now more recently in the cardiovascular complications that occur so early in lupus. He has also been interested and played a major role in developing new biomarkers for diagnosis and response to therapy in lupus nephritis, began using machine learning models when I had no idea what that meant, and artificial intelligence. He has mentored a number of graduate students, MD, PhD students, fellows, medical students, and residents, and some of these are shown in this picture of our group. He is becoming perhaps most best known for being a national leader in the use of the electronic medical record as a tool in clinical research. So the other half, other than being an outstanding leader in the field of medicine, is to be a major contributor to the AFMR and SSCI. And he began working with the AFMR in 2001 as a counselor, was secretary treasurer of the Southern Region, then became chair of the Southern Region, a counselor on the SSCI, then president of the AFMR, secretary treasurer of the SSCI, and then 2013 to 2014 was president of the SSCI, and he continues on the council at this time. You'll notice some of the other people on this frame. I don't know who the woman is in the bottom right and what she has to do with the SSCI. It's not you, is it, Joan? Okay. So he has been a very effective advocate at MUSC, recruiting a number of us to join the SSCI. He has spent an enormous amount of time promoting the SSCI. He truly believes in it and his mission, and has been one of his major focuses throughout his career. So I'm not sure anybody has devoted more time and effort to the SSCI than Jim, although I know a number of you have. Perhaps the top of the summit at this point for Jim was that he was selected to be the chief of our division. We're the 13th ranked rheumatology division by U.S. News and World Report, and Jim was selected after a national search in which there are a number of outstanding other candidates that were interested in the position. Clinically, he's an outstanding clinician and administrator of the rheumatology clinical enterprise and research. He's serving as the vice chair for research and agreed to continue to do that even after accepting being the division chief, and he is a successful researcher, well funded through the VA, the NIH, and other foundations. He is an excellent teacher and is dedicated to teaching at all levels, including residents, fellows, and students, and has received teaching awards. In persona, he is a very humble, despite his multiple successes, and is highly respected and relates well to basic scientists, clinician scientists, and clinical investigators. I'm sure Jim will talk more about them, but this is his wonderful family. Jim, Aubrey, his daughter, Sherlock, and Jen. Jen is the human, Sherlock is the dog, and Evan is his son, who's currently at Vanderbilt University, and Aubrey is still in high school. So in summary of what the SSCI Founders Medal is here for, and the ideals is to play an important role in the organization by providing leadership. Certainly Jim has done that, and to be a nationally recognized leader in medicine, and Jim is certainly there too. So I can't imagine a more exemplary example of what the SSCI was established for and continues to be. He has already made a lasting impression on MUSC and SSCI, and I'm incredibly proud as his former mentor. I say former mentor because he's my boss now, so I'm not sure I can be the mentor of my boss, but certainly extremely proud of him and him receiving the SSCI Founders Medal this year.
Thank you, Gary. And thank you all for lasting this far through the meeting. Those of you who know me will understand that the beauty of receiving this award for me is that I get to stand through this talk rather than sit. I have a hard time sitting for a long time. And I do want to take this moment to plug Charleston, our beautiful city that I've lived in since I followed Gary there in 1996. And also to remind all of you that it's Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day. For those of you who are away from your families, that shows your dedication to academic medicine. So I hope this doesn't come to a surprise to anyone, but it all starts with your parents. So that's where I'm going to start. And I'll start with my dad, who you've heard about already. And I'm going to talk about him not as the chairman of medicine or his scientific contributions, but as my father. Not to go on too long about our relationship, but to show you a little bit about what qualities he showed as a parent that were apparent to those of whom he mentored along the year, through the years. I was saddened by his passing, but I had the pleasure at his memorial of talking to many of the people he'd mentored over the years. And several themes emerged when I heard about what they talked about. One was that his real strength was in making connections. Connections between ideas, connections between disciplines, like that which occurs at this meeting. And I can't stress it enough. Every time I leave a plenary session, I have an idea that I want to pursue. It doesn't always happen, but it makes me think differently about how I approach the problems that I see in the clinic and in the lab. I think differently about it. But one of the most important connections he made was personal connections with his mentees. And each and every one of them talked about how he made them feel special by listening to them, hearing them, remembering what they had done, and adding somehow and making a connection with their career path based on what he had heard. But underpinning all of those interactions with faculty, with staff, with patients, those in need outside of the medical setting, was the strong underlying belief that every human being should be treated with dignity and respect. He also had the following qualities. He had a Boy Scout-like desire to be prepared. And he was a Boy Scout. encouraged me to do so, and was proud when his grandson was one as well. But the Be Prepared motto was something he followed religiously, particularly in family vacations. So here he's pictured on his boat, the Wind Song. He has his sleepy face on before the first cup of coffee because the sun is rising in the background. We weighed anchor before sunrise, and here we are going off for the day. But while it was easy for me to step on the boat and sail with him and have fun, there was a great deal of preparation that went into making sure that that vacation occurred often without a hitch, but things do happen on boats. Also, he had an uncanny ability to move to Plan B when Plan A didn't turn out as planned. For instance, when a storm rolled over the Chesapeake Bay while we were out in the middle of it, or on a beach vacation when the rain rolled in, we played a lot of hearts. We assembled a lot of puzzles over the years. He also had a great joy in asking and answering questions. And this is what made him continue his research career through the time that he died. He was having lab meetings from his hospital bed the week before he died. When I was younger, when we would do projects around the house, and when I was older, when we were fixing that great fiberglass hole in the water into which one throws money, each of those was a teachable moment. And when I was younger, it was physics, and older, it was other things, including politics. But most importantly, I'll reiterate, his commitment to relationships was important. My mother taught me a great deal of things. She taught me to be tenacious and in pursuit of goals, but to do so with humility and with a sense of humor that you can see here. And I didn't choose this photo because it is the greatest quality photo. It's taken indoors from an iPhone, and I had to crop it. But it's taken at the dinner table, or this is generally a dinner table here. It's a breakfast table, and there's actually a gathering of the family around the table. Lots of things happened around this table. As my wife reminded me, at meetings, a lot of times the collaborations start with an idea, but they actually happen around the dinner table after the meeting, or during the meeting, or around lunch. So lots of lessons were learned around that dinner table. He was also enjoyed the house that they had built up on the hill. He affectionately called it his tree house, which is why I chose that as well. But Mom taught me that the smartest person in the room doesn't have to be the loudest, and that sitting back and listening to what others have to say is a great way to learn, and that if we do that, we learn from everyone we meet. And here she is doing just that, as Dad is probably cracking a joke. Another influential person in my life actually was my math teacher, Debbie Davies. She realized that I was an unconventional math student who didn't approach the solving of a problem in the way in which the publishers of the textbooks said I should do it. They were from Texas, if those of you who are aware about where our textbooks come from. But she was okay with that. She allowed me to grow. She allowed me to be creative, so to speak, so long as I came up with the right answer in the long run, unlike this solution here. But a person who's had the greatest impact on me personally and career-wise, as you can imagine, is Gary Gilkison, and here he's pictured with a smile that he can't suppress on his face, and I suspect, I stole this from his Facebook page, but I suspect this is at the wedding of either his son or his daughter. And I can't tell if this is the joy of seeing one of his children married to a beautiful person, because he really has a wonderful family between his son and his daughter and his in-laws and his grandson, or whether this is suppressing the pain of writing the check. Gary was recruited by Rick Silver, who's in the audience today, who is a leadership mentor for me. He led the division that I now lead for 23 years, and he's given me a great deal of advice over the years. One of them was to be less of an engineer and follow my father's advice and pay attention to the relationships. But Gary was recruited to start the lupus program at MUSC, and now on faculty, which is a small representation of the people he's mentored, there are 4 physician scientists and 6 basic scientists represented. 2 of his former mentees, at least 2, are department chairs, one in Fukushima, Japan. What originally attracted me to Gary was his intelligence, his creativity, but his affable personality that came out earlier. But he too excels in making connections. And that's one of the things that makes him a great mentor, is he connects his mentees with individuals who can help their careers. But he also makes connections in an interdisciplinary fashion. So the first project that he handed me was on inducible nitric oxide synthase. And it came about as a collaboration from Bryce Weinberg down the hall, who was interested in INOS for a completely different reason, but as a stimulator of the innate immune response. And Gary saw that as a potential in a driver of the downstream innate immune response in lupus. Another thing that's attracted me to him is his generosity. As I alluded to earlier, he essentially gave me that project after he introduced me to it, and moved on to something else, which he is also prone to do with a new mentee. And he's successively done this over the years. And this is our lupus research group, clinical research group, with some, and the nice thing about it is that even though it's a clinical research group, we have basic scientists that join us, and people from different disciplines as well. Another thing that I admire about Gary is his service. We all wear lanyards around our necks that hold badges, and they display to the world our qualifications, but they also let us into protected and sacred spaces. But Gary has worn one for years. I don't think he wears this one anymore, but it had the letters BAD on it. And I only, because Gary is not doesn't display his faith publicly, later realized that this meant for be a disciple, not be naughty. Really, if you think about that, the modern interpretation is a follower of Christ. But if you go back to the Latin, it is a student or a learner. And he has displayed that throughout his years, through his constant desire to learn something new, to make new connections, but also in his service. He has taken several trips to Sierra Leone to study the connections between people from that region and individuals in the low country of South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, and Florida, who are their distant cousins. And the relationship between gene and environment interactions and the onset of lupus, because they don't see much lupus in Sierra Leone for various reasons. But he also goes there for service. And more recently, he brought his wife, Mary Ann, there. And he and Mary Ann do service outside of the university in their church. They mentor young adults in their church, but also individuals in the community who are from less fortunate backgrounds. I would be remiss, however, if I didn't mention the people sitting in this room who have influenced me greatly. Bob Means got me into this 20 years ago, approached me in the hallway. His lab was down the hall from mine. He said, Jim, how would you like to be in the AFMR? Of course, my first question is, what is the AFMR? So one of the important things is people need to introduce you to pathways to career success, and he got me going on my way there. Another person who's been influential is Monica Farley. She has preceded me in each of the positions that I have had the pleasure of serving in, particularly in AFMR, and she really has shown me how to be a leader and how to interact with folks. Galen Marshall and I co-chair the allergy, immunology, and rheumatology, although the order is wrong there, I think. Section. He and Rick DeShazo have taught me about courageous authenticity. So it's good to listen, but it's also good to speak up when you feel something is important and to give your expertise. Finally, my family. Learning goes in several directions. So between a mentor and a mentee, or between a parent and a child, or a parent and a spouse. I'll start with my daughter, Aubrey. She's sitting next to me there. I'll get this. The year before, she was bald in this picture. From treatment for leukemia. She's doing well, but she's modeled for me strength and adversity. She's a trooper. I get more emotional about this than she does. So does Jen. For my son, Evan, he's taught me persistence when things don't go as planned. And he has a wonderful way of looking at the world. Sherlock, pictured with the antler ears, has taught me some things that I think would be helpful in negotiations with the hospital. She's taught me that if you look intently at someone, tilt your head slightly to the side and raise your eyebrows, that you'll get what you want. I'm still perfecting that one. And finally, my wife, Jennifer, who is my rock. Here she's pictured at a Josh Groban concert, and I can't tell if that smile is for me or for Josh, but it really pays to marry someone who's smarter than you. I noticed that in college when she chose as her senior project, linking a toxin to a monoclonal antibody as a cancer therapy in 1985. And she went on to Wash U because of her expertise in making monoclonals, which was hot back then, to characterize a receptor. Her maiden name is Goodwin. On phagocytes when I was still struggling in medical school, trying to figure out how I was going to read everything that was assigned to me. But really the most important thing is she's a beautiful, loving, generous human being who is also a lifelong learner. So she takes this expertise and applies it to whatever the challenge of the day is, be it illness in the family or what have you. And Jen, I thank you for being in my life. And I want to thank the council for this honor and all of you for persisting while I got to stand sitting.